Congressman Lee Zeldin of New York. He's a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee as well as the Bipartisan Climate Solutions Caucus. He's also an Iraq War veteran. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.
All right, so I want to get your reaction. The president says pulling the U.S. out of the Paris Agreement, he says it's part of his America First promise. But this agreement has been signed, as you know, by nearly every nation in the world. Only Nicaragua and Syria are not signatories. Do you worry that this decision will isolate the U.S. from its allies?
I believe it creates an opportunity if the president is real in what he said regarding working with Democrats, working with members of Congress and the American public, very concerned about climate change and addressing it not just here within our country but globally. Then what we should do is continue to work and engage with the international community and try to negotiate a better deal. That would not just help serve the president's purpose of fighting for the American economy, the American worker, and American interests, but it would also help those Democrats and Republicans, those who are deeply concerned about climate change, to accomplish their goals of actually ending up with an agreement that's better for the world than Paris.
You were the only member, I'm told, of this bipartisan coalition that did not write a letter, did not tell the president, don't drop out of this agreement. Why did you avoid sending a letter to the president saying, you know what, you can make changes, but don't leave the Paris Accord?
Well, because the Paris Accord is flawed. And what I really would love is for the United States to be making really ambitious and obtainable, feasible commitments, and for these other actors around the world to be agreeing to it and be making that same level of ambitious commitment. But what was happening here with Paris was we were attempting to lead, and we were signing off on other nations admitting that they're not going to follow us, and that in many respects they would actually be going in the wrong direction, emitting even more emissions into our environment. And for anyone on either side of this issue, if you care about clean air and clean water, if you believe the president was hitting all the right marks, or you're someone who believes that he was completely wrong today, I would really hope that when we look at the merits of Paris, that we as a nation would find a way to come together with the goal of getting a nation like China to be pledging to reduce emissions and not us signing off on a deal that's allowing them to emit it. With India, we shouldn't have to bribe them in order to make commitments that they should be making on their own. So leadership would be to bring these other nations to the table and to get them to be making sacrifices that America is showing that we're willing to make. And for America's sacrifices, it's important that it's obtainable. We've seen growth in our effort to reduce emissions with our development of alternative energy, clean and green.
Those changes could be made while the U.S. still remained a signatory to the Paris Climate Accord. What do you say to those like Fareed Zakaria, we just heard him, who say the U.S. has now, for all practical purposes, resigned its position as a world leader?
Well, I would disagree with that notion as long as the president follows through with his pledge to work with those in our own country who care deeply about climate change, who want to tackle it, who would want the president to try to negotiate a better deal. If the president follows through with that commitment, and at the end of the day, after some elbow grease and working hard with foreign leaders, we can end up with a better deal, then we haven't relinquished anything, and we're actually showing more leadership than if we accept the status quo, where the United States are making sacrifices and the rest of the world is actually contributing even more towards exactly what is creating the issues with our environment altogether.
You know, if the Paris Agreement, which you supported originally, but now you're supporting the president's decision, if that agreement was so bad, why do you think so many major U.S. companies, including energy companies like ExxonMobil, you see some of them up there, BP, Chevron, Shell, they actually support the agreement?
Well, there are many different reasons why different individuals in the energy sector and different energy companies in the energy sector have supported Paris over the course of the years. There was a lot of advocacy by the last administration to build additional support. You have some companies that benefit from the agreement. But what's most important, again, is that this is a moment in time where on so many issues, we as a nation, we find ourselves polarized. It was like this last year during the presidential race. And when you get this moment, if you care so deeply about this issue, whether you agree with the president or you completely disagree with him, we need to do a better job coming together, working together, productive, substantive conversations, dialogue, solutions to move better. So if we're not rejecting Paris and then walking away from our commitment and going in the wrong direction here in our country, it's a renewed commitment that we as a nation, we're coming together, we're going back to the international community, and we're going to China, we're going to India, we're going to these other countries, and we're asking them to actually sacrifice as opposed to they get to play us in a way that actually has harmful effects for our environment.
I know, Congressman Zeldin, you believe that climate change is a serious, serious concern, but you know that during the campaign, the president called it a hoax. And there are a lot of people right now who are not convinced, as you are, that this is an opportunity to renegotiate this deal. They don't believe the president is very sincere in even believing the whole nature of this problem. Very quickly, your response.
Well, we're going to have to continue working with the president, with the administration, and encouraging them on the merits to follow through on that commitment, to talk to all of us, to work with us, go back to the international community and try to negotiate a better deal. He's following through with his commitment, and everyone who cares about climate change is happy that they actually end up with a better outcome.
Well, let's see what happens. Congressman Lee Zeldin, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.